For centuries, the ice walls have marked the visible edge of the known lands, forming a barrier that not only stops bodies, but also interrupts memory. For most, that wall is the end of the world. For others, it is the beginning of what was never meant to be remembered. Beyond the ice lies not merely another territory. It is where truth resides, truth that was sealed away by parasitic civilizations that imposed a narrative, designed a false sky, and conditioned the human senses so they could not perceive beyond the boundary. Nos confunden. What lies behind those walls cannot be described with modern maps or astronomical calculations. The distance cannot be measured in kilometers, nor can the journey be made by just any traveler. What separates this side from that is not space, but consciousness. It is an inner transition, a rupture with illusion, a spiritual disposition that allows doors to open once there is no return to the old world. The crossing does not depend on technology, but on vibration. Beyond the wall, there are lands untouched by the resets. Complete human civilizations, descendants of the first humanities, live there, never genetically altered, never enslaved by colonizers or institutional control systems. Nos confunden. These are peoples who, during each attempted reset inside the inner dome, found ways to escape, sealed their ancestral memory, and protected their lineage from manipulation. They preserved the intact memory of who we were before the fall, before the custodians and the Anunnaki took control and altered every aspect of our history, our environment, and our perception. While inside the walls a narrative of linear evolution and isolation is imposed, outside, knowledge continued to evolve. Knowledge that would still be incomprehensible to minds molded by programmed education. Words are used, but they do not confuse. There exists another level of connection between beings. Time is not measured as a line that burns away, but as a cycle that pulses. They live with the earth, not upon it. They resonate with it, and with the lands that surround them. They preserve technologies that do not burn resources, that do not destroy the environment. There is complete harmony when the custodians do not interfere. Is this then how we would live had we not been colonized? In their reflection we can see what we are forbidden to become, or how we are denied our natural state. But their greatest strength does not lie in their ancient cities or in their knowledge, but in what they manage to protect. Because there is something that neither the custodians, nor the parasites who manipulate the dome, nor the races that operate from higher planes have ever been able to touch. It is that which still lives within some humans. The source, a vibration impossible to alter, a memory that does not depend on language, on the body, or on DNA. A direct connection to what some call soul, and which the invaders could never comprehend. Nos confunden. That spark cannot be implanted, it cannot be copied, it cannot be extinguished. It can only be hidden from our reality. That is why noise exists, why distraction and overstimulation are constant, why emotional programming is so intense. Everything is designed so the human never hears the call. Because when that call is activated, when a consciousness begins to listen to what pulses beyond the ice, the entire system begins to fracture from within. And that is the true crack. Not the political system, nor the scientific theories, nor the institutions, but the internal fracture that opens when one remembers. The one who remembers needs no proof. The one who feels needs no maps. The one who has seen, even for just a second, what lies beyond, knows that what is taught inside these walls is only a layer, a distortion, a story written by hands that never sought the common good. Nos confunden. Because the ice walls are real, but not final. They are a threshold, a frontier between captivity and truth. They were not placed there to protect us from the outside, but to prevent us from returning to what we have always been: free, aware, awake. And deeper still than the physical wall lies another wall, the wall of adulterated knowledge. For entire generations, human history has been falsified, rewritten, fragmented into controlled versions that legitimize the prison without the prisoner ever noticing the bars. Official books have been filtered, records altered, real chronologies buried beneath layers of manufactured interpretation. Entire civilizations were erased. Miracles of thought were discredited. Ancient maps were ridiculed. The remnants of earlier humanities, or of the giants, were labeled as myths or misinterpretations. Everything that could guide us back to remembrance was systematically buried beneath the layer of forgetfulness called official history. But that forgetfulness is not absolute. Beneath the surface of what is taught, symbols still pulse, fragments still breathe. There are still those who, when seeing an ancient image or reading a forgotten text, feel a shiver that cannot be explained by logic. Nos confunden. That is where awakening begins, in that deep intuition that tells us something in our memory does not match what we've been forced to repeat. That is the crack in the narrative. And when that crack widens, the entire storyline begins to collapse. The remnants of past floods and buried technologies cannot be hidden for much longer. Our lives have been conditioned since childhood, and we grow up anesthetized, living in a hostile environment, walking dark paths born from distrust and pain, shaped by a history told to us about heroes who never were and wars that never happened. That is why you must know this now. This path is not for everyone, only for those who dare to see beyond. YouTube channel Nos Confunden.